Angel Reese. The name that once had fans buzzing with excitement is now sparking a very different reaction. Controversy, finger pointing, and a lot of uncomfortable questions. The truth? The conversation around her has shifted from praise to frustration, from celebrating her rise to wondering if she's the one dragging her own career down. And here's the kicker. This isn't about jealousy or hate or even some outside rivalry. This is about a pattern. A pattern so clear that it's impossible to ignore once you step back and connect the dots. Think about it. Angel wasn't just some random star who came out of nowhere. She was launched into the spotlight on the back of one viral NCAA moment, that infamous showdown with Caitlin Clark. It was the clip heard around the sports world, the spark that lit the fire. And suddenly, Angel wasn't just a player, she was a brand, a storyline, a symbol. But here's the uncomfortable truth. What happens when the moment fades, but the hype doesn't match the performance? What happens when a player starts believing the story more than the scoreboard? Because that's where we are right now. The headlines aren't about dominance on the court. They're about chaos in the locker room. They're about drama between teammates. They're about a player who seems more focused on proving she's the star than proving she's a leader. And the twist? That spotlight she fought so hard to keep shining is now exposing every flaw, every crack, every ugly detail. And this isn't new. People talk like it started in Chicago with the Sky, but no. This trail goes all the way back. Maryland, LSU, now Chicago. Different jerseys, same story. It's like pressing repeat on the same song, only louder every time. First it's the hype, then it's the struggles, then it's the finger pointing, and finally, boom, the locker room explodes. But the question is, why does it always circle back to Angel? Take Chicago. Fans were promised a new era, a fresh energy, a star who could anchor the team. Instead, the season opened with losses stacking up, and when the team needed their supposed star to rise, Angel crumbled. Missed layups, empty stats, the kind of moments where stars make their mark, she couldn't deliver. And instead of digging in, instead of carrying the weight, she did something else. She pulled away, sat out, distanced herself from the losing record, almost like she was trying to separate her image from her own team's struggles. But here's where it gets wild, because what came next made it all 10 times worse. That interview, the one that cracked open everything. Angel didn't just vent her frustrations. She scorched the earth, saying her teammates weren't good enough, painting herself as the lone bright spot surrounded by mediocrity. Imagine hearing that after you fought beside someone, defended them, had their back against critics. Imagine going to war for a teammate only for them to publicly declare you're the problem. That's not frustration, that's betrayal. And you can guess what happened next. The locker room didn't stay quiet. Tension boiled over. Players who had defended her through everything suddenly saw her words for what they were. A giant flashing sign that said, "I'm not responsible." You are, and for a team already struggling, that was the final straw. Chicago had to step in. Suspension, a clear message from the top down. This wasn't going to be swept under the rug. But Angel? She didn't own it. She didn't stand tall and say, "I crossed the line, number." She pivoted, claimed her words were taken out of context, apologized half-heartedly, tried to spin it back into victim mode. But here's the thing, once people see the tape, once they hear the words, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Her teammates knew exactly what she said, and so did everyone else. And then came the injury story. The sudden back problem that mysteriously appeared at just the right moment. Was it real? Was it convenient? The timing couldn't have been more suspicious. Warm-ups looked fine, then suddenly she's out, sidelined, distancing herself once again. And while the official statement played it safe, we're protecting her, being cautious, it's the medical staff's decision. Fans weren't buying it. Teammates weren't buying it. To them, it looked like another dodge, another way to avoid the fire she set herself. But this isn't just about one season. This is about a cycle. At LSU, we saw the same storm clouds forming. Angel clashing with teammates, tension with Flaujae Johnson, her mom feuding with Flaujae's mom. The whispers of diva behavior, of putting herself above the program. Coach Kim Mulkey had to step in, had to sit her down, because the team dynamic was cracking under the weight of Angel's attitude. And the crazy part? People ignored it. Why? Because she was the star, the one in the spotlight, the one fans were too busy defending against Caitlin Clark. But strip away the noise and the picture is the same. Angel Reese has been setting fires in every locker room she enters, at Maryland, at LSU, now in Chicago. And every time the pattern repeats: hype, problems, blame, exit. And here's the million-dollar question. Is Angel Reese actually as good as the hype suggests? Or is she a star built on one viral moment, trying to live up to a myth that was never really hers to begin with? Now, here's where things get really uncomfortable. Because if we're being brutally honest, Angel's reputation has always been bigger than her production. Sure, the numbers look flashy at first glance, but look closer. So many of those big rebounding nights came from her grabbing her own missed layups, padding stats without actually impacting the scoreboard. That's not dominance, that's recycling failure. And teammates know it, opponents know it. Even fans are starting to whisper it, but Angel? She keeps pushing the narrative that she's the star, the one carrying everyone else. And that's the dangerous part. When you start believing your own myth, you stop doing the work to actually earn it. Ask any champion. Confidence fuels greatness, but entitlement kills it. Angel's problem is that she's crossing that line, walking into locker rooms acting like the crown is already hers, without realizing crowns get snatched the moment you stop proving you deserve them. And let's be real, this locker room collapse in Chicago didn't come out of nowhere. The signs were flashing like neon. The losses, the attitude, the subtle distancing moves, they all built up to the explosion. But instead of taking even a shred of accountability, Angel doubled down on the victim act. And you can almost hear the frustration in her teammates' silence. These are the same women who stood up for her during the Caitlin Clark saga, defended her when critics came hard, and rode for her when the media painted her as controversial. And how does she repay them? By throwing them under the bus to protect her image. That's the kind of betrayal you don't just shake off after an apology. And here's the twist. This isn't just a basketball story, it's a human story. How many times have we seen someone rise fast, propelled by hype, only to collapse under the weight of their own ego? Social media can make you a star overnight, but it can't save you from yourself. Angel believed the Instagram love, the viral clips, the celebrity status. But when the lights dim and the scoreboard tells the truth, there's no filter that hides the cracks. Which makes you wonder, did Angel ever really want to be the leader? Or did she just want to be the icon? Because those are two very different things. Leaders shoulder the blame. Leaders take the hits. Leaders inspire teammates to fight harder, not tear them down in interviews. Icons, on the other hand, crave attention but don't care who pays the price. And right now, Angel is looking a lot more like an icon gone rogue than a leader worth following. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. This isn't the first time she's done it, and it probably won't be the last unless something changes. At Maryland, when the going got tough, she bailed. At LSU, when the shine was bright, she clashed with her own teammates. And now in Chicago, when the season spiraled, she blamed everyone else. That's 3 chapters of the same book, and the ending doesn't look promising. And yet, there's still that lingering what if. What if she could flip the script? What if she stopped trying to play the victim and started owning the narrative? Because here's the secret nobody tells you. Fans love a redemption arc even more than they love a rise. Right now, Angel is teetering on the edge. She can keep sliding down into scandal after scandal, or she can take a hard look in the mirror and rewrite the story. But time is running out, and every headline makes that cliff steeper. But before we dive deeper into her pattern of self-destruction, let's pause for just a second. If you're still watching right now, it means you care about the truth behind the hype. And if you want more unfiltered breakdowns like this, make sure you hit that button, drop a comment with your take, and subscribe so you don't miss the next big story. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around, because this saga is only getting messier. Now, back to the chaos. Remember when Angel tried to explain her comments? That shaky apology where she said her words were taken out of context? Here's the problem. Context doesn't erase intent. Teammates heard exactly what she meant, and it landed like a dagger. These weren't strangers on Twitter. These were women in the trenches with her, fighting through practices, battling through losses, defending her when she couldn't defend herself. And for her to spin it like they weren't good enough? That cut deeper than a bad stat line ever could. And you could see it in the suspension. That wasn't just a slap on the wrist, it was a signal, an organizational decision from the top down. Translation? Even management knew this was bigger than just a bad night. They knew the chemistry was broken, and Angel was the one holding the match. The suspension was damage control, but let's be honest, it was also a warning shot. No star, no matter how hyped, is bigger than the team. But what does Angel do next? Instead of facing the fire, she sidesteps again. Cue the back injury. Now, maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't. But the timing? Suspicious doesn't even begin to cover it. Suddenly, after all the drama, she's too hurt to play. Too hurt to finish the season. Too hurt to stand in the mess she created. And fans, teammates, and even critics saw right through it. It looked less like an injury and more like an escape hatch. And here's where the story takes an even darker turn, because this pattern isn't just ruining locker rooms, it's threatening her career. Coaches talk, players talk, front offices talk. If Angel gets the reputation of being more drama than dominance, more hype than help, doors will start closing fast. And for someone whose fame was built on one viral spark, the fall could be even quicker than the rise. And if you think this is just about one bad season, think again. The writing has been on the wall for years. At LSU, Angel's clashes weren't whispers. They were front-page drama. Flau J. Johnson's mom even called it out, exposing the tension between families. That wasn't some little spat. That was proof of the same cycle we're seeing now. Angel rising, Angel clashing, Angel spinning the narrative so she comes out looking like the misunderstood star. But when you zoom out, the pattern is undeniable. And let's not forget, Coach Kim Mulkey doesn't play games. She's tough, she's old school, and she doesn't let anybody run her program. Even she had to sit Angel down because the diva act was getting too loud. Think about that for a second. A coach who's seen it all, who's dealt with big personalities before, had to rein her in. That's not just about growing pains, that's about a player testing how far she can push before the team snaps. But LSU fans didn't want to see it. They were too busy riding the Caitlin Clark feud high, too busy defending Angel as the face of attitude in women's basketball. And that's the irony. Her biggest break became her biggest shield. The narrative of her versus Caitlin protected Angel from real scrutiny. People were so wrapped up in the drama of a black woman taunting a white superstar that they overlooked what was happening behind the scenes. Angel Reese wasn't building teams, she was breaking them. And now, Chicago is finding that out the hard way. Teammates aren't dumb. They see the Instagram posts. They see the last outfit of the season captions while the team is drowning. They see the attention to image while the performance lags. And here's the harsh truth. Teammates can forgive missed shots. They can forgive bad games. What they can't forgive is betrayal, and when Angel trashed them publicly, it wasn't just criticism. It was character assassination. Imagine grinding through a season, fighting through losses, only to hear your supposed leader say you're not good enough. That's not just disrespectful, it's humiliating. And humiliation has a way of burning deeper than anything else. That's why the locker room blew up. That's why teammates were ready to confront her head on. Because when trust is gone, when loyalty is shattered, You don't have a team anymore. You have fragments. And this is where Angel's story takes a sharp turn. She thought she was untouchable. She thought the hype was enough to cover the cracks, but the Chicago Sky proved otherwise. They didn't protect her. They didn't hide the drama. They suspended her. And in doing so, they made a bold statement. No one is above the program, not even Angel Reese. But instead of stepping up, what does Angel do? She doubles down on the victim act. The apology tour, the "my words were misunderstood" line. But fans aren't blind. The media isn't blind. Her teammates definitely aren't blind. Everyone saw it. Everyone heard it. And the more she tries to spin it, the more it backfires. And that's the irony. The very thing that made Angel the star, the spotlight, is now the same thing that's tearing her apart. Because the spotlight doesn't care if you're right or wrong. It magnifies everything. Every missed layup, every eye roll, every careless comment. And once the narrative shifts against you, the light becomes a heat lamp. It doesn't flatter, it exposes. But here's the question nobody's asking. Does Angel even realize what's happening? Or is she so deep in the echo chamber of social media that she thinks this is just another wave of haters she can outlast? Because that's the real danger here. If she keeps brushing it off as jealousy, if she keeps painting herself as the misunderstood queen, she'll never see the cliff until it's too late. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about talent. Angel has talent. She can play. But talent without accountability is like a luxury car with no brakes. It looks good, it moves fast, but sooner or later it's going to crash. And every locker room she's been in has already felt the wreck. And here's where the long game comes into play. Coaches around the league are watching. Other players are watching. Front offices are watching. And they're asking themselves one question. Is Angel Reese worth the drama? Because if the answer keeps tilting toward no, her career could nosedive faster than anyone expects. We've seen it before. Stars who burn bright, then burn out, all because they couldn't get out of their own way. But what if Angel flipped the script? What if she actually owned her mistakes? What if instead of ducking responsibility, she stood up and said, "I messed up. I can be better." That's the kind of moment that could turn critics into believers, that could rebuild trust with teammates. But so far, every choice she's made screams the opposite. And the longer she waits, the harder that road back becomes. And here's the scariest part of all. Angel Reese has already been given the kind of platform most players only dream of. That viral moment with Caitlin Clark, that wasn't just fame. It was a gift, a free marketing package that skyrocketed her into the cultural conversation. Most athletes never get that kind of break, but instead of building on it, she's squandering it. And if she doesn't wake up soon, that pedestal she's standing on will collapse beneath her. The truth is, Angel Reese isn't just fighting opponents on the court anymore. She's fighting perception. And perception, once it turns against you, is a beast you can't outdribble. Fans who once cheered her every move are now side-eyeing her excuses. Teammates who once had her back are questioning her loyalty. And the media, once her biggest amplifier, are now circling like sharks. And that's the problem with being crowned too early. When people call you the face of women's basketball before you've even proved it over seasons, the pressure becomes unbearable. Every mistake feels bigger, every flaw magnified. And instead of stepping up, Angel seems to be shrinking under it. Worse yet, she's lashing out, and in the process, alienating the very people who could save her career. But this isn't just about pressure. This is about choices. Because every time Angel had a fork in the road, she chose the same path. The one that protects her ego instead of her team. Maryland? She bailed. LSU? She clashed. Chicago? She blamed. Different stops, same story. And if you're wondering if it's just bad luck, no. It's a pattern, and patterns don't lie. But here's where it gets even more brutal. Angel's opponents aren't scared of her anymore. They've figured out the game. Double her up, force her into mistakes, let her frustration take over, and when she spirals, her team spirals. That's not star power, that's a liability. And in pro sports, a liability doesn't last long, no matter how big your social media following is. And yet, there's still a glimmer of opportunity. Because here's the twist. Controversy makes you famous, but comeback stories make you legendary. If Angel swallowed her pride, rebuilt trust, and proved she could lead, not just play, she could rewrite the whole narrative. But the clock is ticking, and the window is closing fast. Every interview, every game, every Instagram post is either buying her more time or cashing in her credibility. Now let's circle back to that infamous interview, the spark that lit this fire. Angel thought she was making a statement, showing the world she was ready for bigger things. Instead, she showed her teammates they were disposable. And when the suspension dropped, it wasn't just punishment, it was confirmation. The organization saw her words as poison. And nothing travels faster in sports than the reputation of a toxic locker room presence. And you know what's worse? Angel doesn't seem to get it. She thinks the suspension was just politics, just the team trying to quiet the noise. But no, this was deeper. This was the franchise saying, we see the problem, and it's you. And that's the kind of message you can't just brush off with a half-hearted apology. But let's not forget, Angel has done this before. At LSU, her clashes nearly tore the team apart. Her coach had to check her, her teammates had to bite their tongues, and still the drama spilled out. And yet, the world didn't notice. Why? Because Caitlin Clark became the distraction. Because the narrative of black versus white, villain versus hero, drowned out the truth. Angel wasn't holding her team together. She was holding it hostage. And now, stripped of that shield, we're finally seeing the real story. The fans aren't chanting her name anymore, the headlines aren't glowing. The hype is fading, and what's left is a player with talent, yes, but also a trail of broken locker rooms. And the hard question every coach and GM has to ask is simple. Can she ever change, or is this who she is? Because if this is who she is, the fall will be swift. Sports are ruthless. Today's icon is tomorrow's cautionary tale. 1 minute you're on billboards, the next you're a punchline on talk shows. And Angel is teetering dangerously close to that edge. But here's the kicker. The choice is still hers. She can keep spinning, keep blaming, keep hiding behind excuses. Or she can step into the fire, own her mistakes, and fight her way back. The problem is, the longer she waits, the louder the noise becomes, and the less people believe she's capable of real change. And maybe that's the saddest part. Because Angel Reese had everything: talent, opportunity, a viral moment that made her a household name. She could have been the bridge between college basketball's hype and the WNBA's growth. She could have been the leader who brought new eyes to the game. Instead, right now, she's the headline for all the wrong reasons. But the story isn't over yet. It can still swing either way. The question is, will Angel write her comeback? Or will she become another name on the long list of wasted potential? So let's zoom out. Angel Reese's story isn't just about one player, one team, or one season. It's about what happens when hype outpaces growth, when image becomes more important than impact, and when someone mistakes attention for legacy. Angel got the kind of spotlight most athletes dream about, but instead of using it to elevate her game, she leaned on it like a crutch. And the cracks are now impossible to ignore. Because here's the truth. Greatness isn't built on moments. It's built on consistency. It's not about one viral clip, one championship, or one headline. It's about what you do day after day, when nobody's watching, when the cameras aren't rolling, when the applause fades. And that's the part Angel seems to have missed. The grind is what makes legends. The hype just sets the stage. And that's why the Chicago drama hits so hard. It's not just a suspension, it's not just a feud, it's a warning, a signal that the path she's on doesn't lead to stardom. It leads to burnout. Because locker rooms don't forget betrayal, fans don't forget excuses, and organizations don't forget who brought chaos through their doors. If she doesn't change, if she doesn't take control of her own narrative, she'll be remembered not as a star who rose, but as a star who self-destructed. But here's the flip side, and it's the one thing still keeping her career alive. People want to see her win. They want the drama, yes, but they also want the redemption. They want the turnaround, the humility, the moment where she shocks the world not with a taunt or quote, but with performance, with leadership, with accountability. That's the carrot dangling in front of her, and if she grabbed it, she could turn this entire story upside down. Imagine it. Angel Reese, the player who stumbled, who clashed, who nearly threw it all away, but who came back stronger. That's the kind of storyline fans eat up. That's the arc that could make her bigger than ever. Not as a villain, not as a diva, but as a survivor who grew into a leader. The opportunity is there. The question is, does she have the humility to take it? Because if she doesn't, the alternative is brutal. Sports history is littered with names that once meant everything and now mean nothing. Talents that fizzled. Stories that ended in frustration. Angel is dangerously close to being one of them. And the saddest part is that it wouldn't be because of her skills. It would be because of her choices. So where do we go from here? The fans will keep debating, the media will keep spinning, the teammates will keep moving on, but Angel, she's standing at a crossroads. One path is the same cycle. Blame, drama, excuses, exits. The other is accountability, growth, leadership, and maybe, just maybe, a shot at real greatness. And that's the beauty of this moment. It's not too late. But the window is closing and the spotlight won't wait forever. Angel Reese has to decide, will she keep being the problem, or will she finally become the solution? And that's where I'll leave it with you. What do you think? Is Angel Reese doomed to repeat the same cycle, or does she still have a chance to flip the script and shock us all? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear your take. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Because trust me, this story isn't finished yet. Not by a long shot.